I can't imagine being nonverbal. How long were you nonverbal? There were a lot of people you mentioned early in your life who doubted whether you'd live a normal or successful life.
always he always showed up. He always delivered 100% on and off the track, whether driving for the best teams or the worst teams. He always made sure to give 100% and just be honest with himself and just always.
All right. Welcome to the Rain from Within show. I'm Shane, your host. Everybody in life has a story, and most people carry scars they do not talk about. The point of this show is it's about sitting down with real people, walking through the experiences that shaped them, the pain they went through, and how they began turning scars into strength. This is the next project I genuinely believe is the next step for Streignth and the community that we're building. And I'm very excited to really get to know and sit down with some of the athletes inside of our program, people outside of it too. But today's guest, I'm sitting down with Jeff Kruger, somebody I've known since first grade when I was 6 years old. Jeff was diagnosed on the autism spectrum early in life and was nonverbal growing up. You'll see moments from his childhood, his early years in sports, and the environments that helped him slowly find his voice. We talk about what it took for him to find that voice, how sports became a turning point for his confidence, and how training, structure, and discipline helped him build belief when life felt uncertain, especially after graduation and COVID. No hype, just real stories of turning pain into power and scars into strength. Make sure you subscribe, like, share this with somebody who might need to hear it. And above all else, enjoy the show. Jeff Kruger, my man. Guys, I've known Jeff since I was 5 years old. So very thankful to have you on the show. You were diagnosed on the autism spectrum at a very young age, nonverbal for a period of time. When you look back at your early childhood, Jeff, what do you think people don't fully understand about how much work that it took to become who you are today?
Okay, so even this conversation right now, this would have been almost unthinkable over 2 decades ago if you were to ask, my parents or anyone who was, treating me in the medical fields like this. Just even having this conversation or looking at you in the eyes or, just living a normal day-to-day life would almost seem impossible. So it was tough. Like I said, I was nonverbal for a year and a half. So that was, just understanding kind of how to navigate the world in that sense. But I finally started to work my way in the world, and here I am today.
Well, we're thankful you're here, brother. You've come a long way. I can't imagine being nonverbal. How long were you nonverbal?
About a year and change. I don't know the exact timeline, but that's what my mom said, so I'm gonna stick with that. So
Cool. It didn't come as easy, right? What did it feel like navigating school and friendships when you knew you had to work a little bit harder than most people to fit in?
I guess just help me like understand social cues, understand like how to have a conversation with people, and just kind of effectively learn what would be natural for someone like yourself. You have to almost it's almost like a whole class in of itself, just how to be a normal person. So it wasn't easy, but actually you made it very easy when we met each other almost now 20 years ago this year. So you took me under your wing when you probably about didn't know what I had or why I was a bit different compared to other people. But most people your age and years down the road would probably have just not wouldn't have considered me for anything. But it's not high on people's priority list to be friends with someone on the spectrum. So I appreciate you taking more, be more patient, be more understanding of who I am as a person.
Of course, bro. Well, you're so fun to get to know. And, like you said, we've known each other for about 20 years now. And we had that picture 10 years ago today, like last week from the Milwaukee Bucks game. That was pretty sick. But yeah, man, like we've talked about, I don't see you any differently. I think you're more interesting than most of my friends that I've had in the past. I mean, come on, bro. There's a lot of reasons why I like you. You're very loyal. Like I know I can go to you for anything. We check in on each other. Like, you're just the definition of a good friend, man. So I knew I had to have you on the show. You've been a part of Strength for a couple years. We'll get into Strength more in a little bit. But you mentioned that things began to shift for you in middle school through cross country. What did finding that outlet do for your confidence and sense of identity?
I think just being part of something bigger than myself ultimately, and just knowing that I could be, a normal standing person and have some kind of, I guess, credibility as a person in the classroom and out of it. And actually, you were there too, along with a few of our mutual friends. So I know I was in good hands with you guys, and I feel like I belong to something that I could really succeed in and grow in.
Yeah, we got that one picture. We're gonna have to find it, dig it out of the archives of you and me standing at the starting lineup. We got a bunch of pictures from cross country because, dude,
Actually, my sister said that, I'm guessing.
yeah, I think it was. But yeah, that was a whole I forget all about cross country. That's amazing that you mentioned that before the call, so we got to talk about it here. Another thing you mentioned was track and DECA, quiz bowl, different social circles in high school. How did your view of yourself change in high school?
I feel like I became more sociable. I feel like I became less reclusive. I feel like I could be more adaptable and like, because obviously when you have people with different grades, you have different backgrounds, different aptitudes, skill sets, personalities. You just kind of learn to adapt and adjust with that, which helped me in my working world where you have even more variety of people you have to deal with. So that helped me a lot understand kind of the world works. And a lot of people just appreciate my authenticity, my loyalty, my just my commitment to each organization. Like, and people always respond in kind. I always try to be this version of myself towards others, so they would do the same for me. So I appreciate the outputs that existed for my development, but also their development as well.
Very well said, brother. So, you graduated high school, top of your or pretty top of your class. Weren't you like top 5 or
I was in the top quarter percentile, so I wasn't like the top, but I was like in like one of the higher echelons of our graduating class. So that's just a testament, just to the people around me, just putting in the work routine and discipline, even in the mundane, as you've written in your book. I just
absolutely.
finished reading. So just being disciplined, organized, understanding the world around you, and putting in a good effort and having a good attitude when doing so really carried a long way. And that showed when I graduated high school.
Excellent. So college now, another transition, switching majors, uncertainty, learning what you were truly committed to. What did that season teach you about kind of like the mainly the patience and the self-direction of college?
It was really a lesson in humility, honestly, that knowing that I didn't have what I needed to be successful in my first field. I just knew my heart wasn't committed to where I was. I needed to really find a new outlet that I could really succeed and be the best version of myself. Yeah, I'd go to the gym, I try to do other things just to kind of, improve myself, but it clearly felt like it was still just eating at me that this, my previous major was not where I needed to be. But, I had to sit down with some advisors and I really found my new path, which would be business manager, where I really felt it was more felt, I felt more of an affinity for, and I had better skill set in. So I really appreciated that I took some sense of ownership, humility, and honesty as to who I am and where my skill set and abilities lay.
Yes, it's all about finding where your skills are best fitting. So when you no longer had, the structured sports like cross country or track, like you said, you turned to the gym. What do you feel like strength training um what did it begin to give you mentally before it gave you the physical changes?
Just mental clarity and just not having to have just the stresses of life in general, work, college. I could just focus on just being in my zone and just the only thing that you're worried about is, maxing your weight, hitting your best reps, and just like I said, being the best version of yourself ultimately. So that was just the key thing, was just as an escape, really, and just being away from, the world as it is. Like we all need kind of escape outlets for us to really, be our best versions of ourselves.
Well said, man. Yeah. As you remember everything, this guy, dude, Jeff, you have an amazing memory. So if I take you back maybe 7 years, Strength started 2019. I do want to say I always appreciate your day one support. I think you were one of the first people to ever get a t-shirt from us. Do you remember what your first Strength product was?
It was a T-shirt. I don't know what the design was. I think it might have been that kind of whitish one with the
I think it was
black
white.
logo. I want to
Yeah.
say. I
Sportswear. I think it was a sportswear tee. Yeah, it sounds right. And then eventually you modeled a different version of that a couple years later. But
Yeah.
you mentioned that when Strength started, something kind of clicked about having the guidance and leadership and direction. What were you searching for at that point in your life?
Just purpose, really. I mean, that's the thing you can say about almost any person, honestly. But for me, just coming out of switching majors, like I said, and still trying to find my way in the world as a teenager. Like you're young, you're idealistic, your brain's not fully developed till you're 25, so you're just trying to find anything and any mechanism you can to, like I said, to just be you. And ultimately, straight was kind of that outlet where I could feel like, hey, like I'm part of something, even though it's not like in the same vein as like track or quiz bowl, but it's something that a community I can truly belong to, where everyone helps each other out become the best version of themselves, and just kind of holding each other accountable ultimately.
Yes, brother. Let's go. You've been at quite a few events we've done. I feel like there's been numerous ones. You were at the 5-year anniversary. There was a few between like years 2 to 5. I know you were there for. You were at the most recent one in Wisconsin, and that was a while ago. But yeah, man, it's always a blast having you a part of the community. So when you graduated, it was during COVID. You're trying to find your footing afterward. I'm guessing that wasn't easy. How do you feel like that period challenged your confidence and your long-term vision?
So I was working part time at Festival Foods, which I mean, I'm glad I had the opportunity. I worked for them for 4.5 years at that point. They took a chance on a teenager in high school, and you know, for a pretty low stakes role, working cashiering and some of the front end jobs at Festival, which got me through college. But I ultimately knew I needed something bigger and better, just with my degree. Just ultimately, you want to earn more and live a happy life. So that from about December 2020 to about February of 2021 was really just a time of I had to, apply like jobs. And with COVID and with all the uncertainty of the restrictions and the economy as it was really testing my resolve and my patience. Just, what's out there, what can I be successful at? What best suits me with my skill sets? There was, plenty of times I'd apply for jobs and never hear anything back. There was jobs, so just interviews that just didn't quite pan out ultimately the way I hoped to. But, we kept pushing full I myself kept pushing forward and just having that confidence of, knowing that, if you just market yourself to the right person, the right, company will come for you. And that's where Menards tested it and, it took me under their wing as, under their institution. So
Yeah, you've worked with some good companies, festivals, Menards, Quick Trip. So you've been very honest about setbacks, jobs that didn't pan out and moments of doubt about whether success would come. How did you stay grounded when those thoughts crept in?
Actually, there's a couple, obviously a strength, but there's a fellow, a former NASCAR driver named of Kurt Busch who had kind of the same issues. He had kind of issues with, hopping rights to ride, but he always showed up. He always delivered 100% on and off the track, whether driving for the best teams, the worst teams. He always made sure to give 100% and just be honest with himself and just always, achieving for what he needs to get done. And that's ultimately how he kind of resurrected his career after kind of a rocky couple rides, and that's kind of the mentality I've embraced with him. So obviously, with being in the gym, be transit that really helped me just ground me in my physical and mental strength, just kind of keeping me grounded and just not let my anxiety or my fear get the best of me. Like most people just fold and say, "To heck with it, woe is me. I'm not capable of anything." But that really kept us going.
I love it, bro. There were a lot of people you mentioned early in your life who doubted whether you'd live a normal or successful life. How does it feel now to look back at those assumptions to see where you're at now?
I'm very happy that I myself proved them wrong. I mean, they had all the reason in the world for people who are diagnosed with autism. A lot of them don't have the opportunities that I did or have the fortune of overcoming the odds. And so I'm very appreciative of that. But I'm very humble about where I come from. I don't try to let ego get the best of me. I have kind of this almost golf like zen basically where you can't get caught up in the high highs or the low lows of life. You just gotta just part of the stay in the course and do the best you can.
Yeah, I remember whenever we'd go out and or just doing anything, one thing I always admire about you, Jeff, is you've got insane I feel like you have insane courage. You will do or go up to anybody and instigate a conversation. That's something that I always admire to see, and it says a lot about you. The fact that being on the spectrum and not letting that define you. Like, dude, you might be one of the most. You say you're more quieter now, but I've seen you be extremely social, bro. Like, you have genuinely, like, you're exactly what you're turning trials into tribulation into triumph, and I've seen it firsthand in person over 20 years, and I've always known, like, we're gonna be friends forever, man. Like, you're a great dude. So, your life right now, it might look a little quieter from the outside, but it definitely sounds, and I've seen you're very intentional more than ever. How would you describe the version of Jeff you're becoming now?
I feel like I'm becoming the version I wish I was like 5, 6 years ago with having a more like a grounded full time job and just a better mentality of how I approach my life. Unfortunately, you have to kind of go through ride the storm and it comes, whether very obviously or not so obviously as you written your book, obviously, but you have to ride the storm and just you're gonna be better on the other side because not every day is gonna be a rainy day. There will be sunny days ahead, but you just life happens, and that's kind of what I had to learn. And back to your point about socializing, about 4 years ago is when I really came out of my shell for people my age in my early 20s, of really socializing in downtown, and people were just so happy to see me just be more normal. Like the fact that like I felt like I became normal. I felt I'm a normal person. I'm not just the kid who's obsessed about trains or is a dork or doesn't know social conventions. Like he's a normal, regular guy people can like and want to be with.
Absolutely. And hey, your talents of the strengths that you gain, like I said, with the ability to remember things so well, you know all the counties in the United States, correct?
No, just Wisconsin.
Oh, what? I
That's
thought it was a US. You used to be, right?
I know cities I can do a decentish job, but that's a whole other separate thing
All
we
the
can go on
cities
about.
in the United States. That is still impressive. Dude, that's what's up. So, Jeff, as you look forward, or sorry, toward, the future, what does the next step look like for you, and what kind of life are you trying to build?
Just advancing. I'm currently quick trip right now, so I work at the bread and bun factory. So now it's not the most prestigious role within quick trip, but also right as we speak, I'm looking at new roles, perhaps maybe in retail or in the office position, but just to kind of work my way up the ladder, so to speak. So that's been the big priority right now. Obviously, I'm dialing in my macros with my coach Tia. Just getting my water intake and just refining my craft, so to speak, and hopefully move out of the lacrosse area. I mean, I've been living in this area my whole life, but also I want to find a higher purpose in another city and hopefully get married and have kids and kind of have that American dream that you often hear so many times about.
Got to build that legacy one way or another. Yeah, I hear you on the moving. As you know, I moved to Florida about a year and a half ago, and it's definitely life changing. But I'll just give you, I mean, I recommend definitely move out of your hometown at least at some point. But the most important thing, it's not where you're at, it's who you are. But obviously, where you're at can definitely dictate who you become, and then it's the people you're
Mhm.
around. But my goal with strength, of course, is if we're not able to control where we live, is that you get to be a part of this community. You get to meet other people also in alignment, showing up in the team app, the meetings, being able to know that you can lean on each other. And yes, we're very lucky to have you, Jeff. Do you got any last minute notes you want to leave with the audience?
That's a good. I don't know if I have any something no words, but I just want to say I just appreciate for what you've done for your company. Like it's been great seeing your success the last 7 years, and just like I said, you took a chance on someone that by all accounts most people would have ignored. So I've been appreciative for the last 20 years of knowing you and watching both of us develop and grow as people and as members of society. It's been a fun ride. So I've been so thankful to have known you and just, you know, hopefully we have 20 more years yet we can reflect back upon and have a good life to celebrate.
Yeah, man, it's only quarter one, bro. Let's do another 20 years, then another 20, and then another 20. I mean, that shoot, live to 100. Imagine. This
We'll
is
find a retirement home in Florida somewhere, probably.
There we go, out of the hometown. Great, man. Well, it was great seeing you last week, by the way. We'll have to get some Taco Max or something again soon. I was just there trying to use the Wi-Fi. And yeah, because these files, man, this quality that we're making, this production, it's quite something. I'm excited for you to see. I'm excited to all the viewers to hear more about your story, Jeff. We little behind the scenes for the viewers here. This is our third recording because Jeff was the first person I interviewed, and then I was like, I'm not satisfied. The quality's better now. And then I wanted to go even more in depth because I thought his story was very powerful, which I hope you guys do too. So let's go. Give it up for Jeff.